bottoms.
Oh, yeah. Jimmy, what are you buying now?
No, I'm not.
Come on now.
There you go, £4.
What are you buying?
Tracksuit bottoms.
How much for?
£4.
How much?
£4.
£4, don't be silly. I was just look on that screen, it said £99. What was I looking at?
Oh, he won't buy that because he's paying for it out of his money.
I'm only just... I bought change yesterday. It's just a football.
Yeah, well, how much?
I don't wear tracksuit bottoms out and about. That's embarrassing.
What? Stand up! That's embarrassing. Look at you. What you got on, bloody handy pandy outfit? Trendy. That's embarrassing. Tracksuit bottoms. People wear tracksuit bottoms. Oh yeah, I've got another bone to pick with you. Yeah, the hot tub room.
Yeah.
Who cleared it all out? Who got it all going?
I cleared it out.
No, who started it?
I started the job off.
And who finished it?
You had to go work.
Yeah, and what did you put on Facebook? That you done it all?
I didn't. I said finally finished.
Right, well I'm going to go and have a look at it now. Come and have a look, come on. Come and show the people what you've done. Right, you had the intention of what? Starting to do what? This had all gear in it, didn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, what did you actually do?
Cleared it all out.
Don't put your ears like that, you Burke.
I cleared it all out.
Right, it had loads of stuff in it. Okay, you started off doing it. Okay, fair enough.
I finished it and you just
Right.
filled it up.
Lift it up then. Right. Go on in. Start it up and do the chlorine.
Let's do that.
I want this, well, you want to. I'm going to show you how to do it because I'm the one who ends up doing it all the time. You wanted it back in action. Put the pump on. Yep. Right. Now go to the chlorine. Be careful. Right. That's it. Open the cap. Do it over. You want a cap full. Be careful. Don't breathe it in. Hold it over, that's it.
How'd you do it?
Like, rest the bottom of it on. That's it.
What, a capsule?
Yeah, down a bit more afterwards. Okay, one more. Half of that again. That'll do. That's it. Now it's ready. Now every day that's got to be done.
You got to go to the end.
If you go in it in the morning, or if you're in it before me, then you start it first. Okay? And just leave it circulating for a bit. Come out the way, let's show put Mummy's card there. Not too close. There's Mummy's card, there's Mummy in the top corner, there's Gary and Jimmy there obviously. Me and Sharon, we've won the biggest lottery win ever, and there's little Barney. That's a Moonpig card, by the way, so as you can see, they can be very personalised, and it's very good actually, isn't it? Right, do you remember that Hayter lawnmower I had in the other log cabin? Well, I did decide to strip it down. When I got the arrows to it and started squirting air all over it, all the paint lifted off, so there was no other option but to actually repaint it and lacquer it. It's come out okay. I didn't actually rub this one all the way down. I don't know whether you can probably see there or not. The bits that come off, there's a slight ridge line there. You can't really see it under the lacquer. That's the beauty of having a lacquer on top. So I didn't really want to go to the hassle of actually stripping every piece off of this, because this has got quite a large deck on it, and I couldn't barely get it in my sandblasting cabinet, so it's not come out too bad. It's nice and glossy anyway. And when I stripped the motor down, I noticed that there was this bolt sticking out, and I didn't quite know what that was all about. Well, basically, when I turned the mower up the other way, someone had bolted a bracket on, because this had actually broken there, the motor mount, and there was cracks along there, so this still had a problem with these cracks. Now, what I've actually done there I've actually welded these cracks back up again, and I've actually welded this underneath bracket to the deck, as you can probably see there. And then I've done a bit of grinding, and then I've just sprayed over it basically, because once you get the motor in there, you're not going to see none of that. So yeah, I mean, I've got I've never used it actually. I've got this welding MIG welder, which is a let's have a look. It's a Clark MIG 135 TE Turbo. And as I say, I've never done any MIG welding whatsoever, but because that deck needed some work, I decided to give it a go. Now, I've got the instructions. I put it together because it's basically got a power lead which connects into your 13 amp plug socket. You've got this lead, which, bear with me. This lead, which clips onto your metal you're going to be welding. And then you've got this gun, where is it? This gun, which once that clip is clipped onto the deck, and you've got this gun then, which is basically, if I don't know if you can see that, there's a wire core running through the middle of it, and that core of wire, and there's a trigger there obviously. So all you're basically doing is you're holding that onto the metal. As soon as you touch that with the metal, you press the trigger, and then that creates the weld. And that wire sticking out the end there gets fed through automatically, and that's what actually introduces the metal into the actual weld. You've got the control settings there. You've got the one switch 1, 2, and then you've got a minimum, maximum, and then you've got a dial at the top there. That dial there is the speed which that wire comes out through that nozzle. Higher the number, the faster the wire comes out. The recommendations was to have it on 6, so I just put that on 6. I had that switched on to number 2, and I had that switched on to minimum. That is basically a setting for sheet steel or whatever, which is basically what the deck's made out of. And yeah, it worked a treat. I was so happy with it. My welds were a bit untidy obviously, but afterwards all you have to do is obviously to grind them down. I didn't do a very good job of that. I could have done a bit better, but that was only my first weld, to be honest with you. But that's as solid as a rock now, and that's going to be okay. So yeah, I'm going to reassemble this now. So it was worth doing. It was worth painting because it was a Hayter after all, and they do command quite a bit of money. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I'm going to put this together now, and you'll see the end result anyway. Just an update to let you know that quite a few of my mowers have all been sold now. I had one over there, and I had 3 listers over there, which have now gone. There's only one on eBay at the moment, but I'm going to tackle the I might do the Hayter next, that little one there, so we'll do a video on that. So yeah, there you go. Not looking too bad. The old coat of lacquer on it as well, that makes a big difference, putting that lacquer on. As I say, the paint I painted this with was just cheap paint. If I just show you, I've got another project there as well now. My son's brought his Mini Cooper around, which we're having to refurb now, so that I might do videos on that, I'm not too sure yet. He's had some welding done to it, and we're just doing the body work, and he's going to be selling that shortly as well. So that's another thing which we've got on the go at the moment. That one's a non-profit one. But yeah, for this, all it is just cheap old all-purpose paint. You get this on eBay, and there's the colour it is, obviously. That was a pretty near colour to Hayter green, so I decided to spray it with that. I used about maybe 3/4 of a can to paint that deck. So, and then obviously just painting it in that isn't good enough, because if any petrol dropped on it, the paint would obviously peel off, bubble off basically, because it's not petrol resistant. You can buy petrol resistant paints, as you know, but they cost a lot of money, so that was just a cheap alternative. And then, as you know, covering it with my a good quality 2-pack lacquer, which does protect it, so that's why it gives a durable finish. I was only interested in the colour, and there we go. So I'm going to put it back together now, and I'll show you the end result. Well, I'm getting there. To get to this stage, to get the handles back on, the back box, the wheels, the mechanisms for adjusting the wheel height, that's probably taken me about 20 minutes in total. So these are actually going back a lot easier, these Hayters, than the Briggs and Stratton or Mountfields or whatever ones I normally work on. So I haven't looked at the engine yet, but I'm going to be doing that because I think there is a carb problem with it. Just before I stripped this down, I did try to start it, but it didn't want to know, and I noticed that there was a loose pipe on the carburettor. So I think there's a gasket needed, because when I took this motor out of the unit, one of the gaskets come off of the carburetors and broke. So the carb's obviously going to need a service, so I'll get the engine back in first and then I'll start working on the carb. Right, so this is a Briggs and Stratton Quantum engine. As you can see, it's the Jubilee 48, whatever that is. There's a load of crap all around it. That gasket there, or that ring there, has been compressed, and as you can see, someone's obviously had that off before and it's crushed it, so you probably had air getting in through there. And on the actual carb as well, the gasket that around here was that goes on that way, obviously, so that O-ring seals in there because that goes that way on, and this here had a gasket on which connects to the air box. Is that the right way round? No, that's upside down, sorry. So that's the right way. There we go. So the carb goes on that way, and this gasket there basically goes to the airbox, which was damaged. So I'm going to take this carb apart now, and I'm also going to do the same as what I normally do and give this a brush down with some either white spirit, methylated spirit, or some old used petrol, and blow it all down, because I don't want to have to do this on the actual deck now it's all been painted. So that's what I'm going to do now. Right, here's a problem I found. This bracket that was fitted onto there, which obviously holds your carburettor in place, and that's got that little O-ring which I showed you that goes onto there. Now what's happening was that this was pulling forward, this whole mechanism was loose, and it was probably pulling the carburettor off of the inlet and obviously letting too much air in. And the reason that was happening was because this hole here, basically the threads have stripped, and that was just pulling backwards and forwards. So I've removed that plate, and this hole here, I can see that at the back it's got quite a deep boss on it, so I'm going to have to re-tap this out. But it's only a shallow hole. I'm going to obviously have to drill a little bit deeper, but that was the problem, and that could have been a problem why this had an intermittent problem, this lawnmower. It wouldn't start at all because this basically had no seal around it from the carburettor to the inlet manifold. So I'm going to just repair this now. Well, as you can see there, hopefully I've just tapped a thread into there. Let's have a little look. Blow it with the air hose. Well, let's try the bolt in there. Looking pretty good. Right, let's put that back together and see how it goes. Right, there you go, that's the finished job. I ended up having to put a stud in there because, for one, I didn't have a nut the right size, and for two, I think that's more of a secure job now. As you can see, there's no movement at all on that plate now. It's absolutely solid as a rock. So hopefully that would have solved our problem. So now I'm going to just reassemble the rest of the engine and put it back in the mower. Here's another important thing I've found. On this air filter backplate, you've got the priming bulb, as you can see there, which you press in and out to get some fuel into the carburettor for cold starting or whatever. But on the back of it, as I mentioned, there was a gasket which was broken. Now this is that gasket. Now, as I said to you, this gasket was actually broken when I took the thing off. So obviously someone's had a look at it, but obviously reassembled it, tried to get it started, and it wouldn't start. Now, I've just blown the air hose to clean all this up, and one thing I noticed was that this chamber here, let me just get that off, this chamber here, which the gasket normally covers, leads directly to the priming bulb. So under normal circumstances, when this is clamped in place onto the back of the carburettor, in this gasket there's also a little hole which you can't really see here because it's broken away, it's disappeared, but this is the hole which injects petrol through that little chamber. There it is there. There's the hole there that you can see actually. When that gasket is totally in place, you're just left with that hole there, which corresponds with a hole in the carburettor which injects the petrol while you're pushing on the siphon pump to push fuel into the carburettor. Well, obviously that gasket was broken, so no matter how many times you've pushed, there's no fuel able to make its way down this little channel into the carburettor. So again, another silly little problem there, which probably made this person give up on this mower. And it all originated probably from that original backplate, which we've now repaired, and also this gasket, which is directly bolted onto the carburettor, which was broken. That is the importance of this gasket here. So a lot of people probably thought, oh, it'll just go back on and it'll be alright, but that little channel there has to be sealed to allow the petrol to flow when you push the priming bulb down through that little hole there in that gasket there into the carburettor. So I've now got to order a new gasket, but that doesn't stop me putting the rest of the item together. I just thought I'd show you that in case you come across a Hayter lawnmower with a Briggs & Stratton, is it the Quantum engine I just said? Can't remember, but this type of push prime mechanism, which is bolted onto the side of the engine, and the priming mechanism is actually on the back plate of the air filter, so that's one to look out for. Oh well, I've had to cover it up. I'm not far off to finish it, but I've got to order this gasket now, so rain has actually stopped playing. I don't know if you can see, it's very murky out here now, so I've just tidied away. I'm going to go in and order this gasket, and I'll see you in part 2 of this video.